Welcome back, my children, my Africa. It returns to South African State Theatre and it runs between the 2nd and 13th of March 2026. It's directed by acclaimed Aubrey Sekhabi. The play is set in the final years of apartheid, and this compelling three-character play brings together Mr. M, dedicated black school teacher, his gifted student, and of course a white learner from a neighbouring school. Perhaps to share a little bit more on the production, let's be joined by cast members, actor Mandla Gaduka, as well as actress Penny Wolhuter. Good morning to the both of you, and thank you for your time at this hour.
Thank you.
So we're paying an ode to one of our greats. I mean, he's passing, that baton being handed over, and it's still being so intergenerationally relevant.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit more about this baton, this ode, and what conversations will be sparked by having this production stage yet again.
I think it's a wonderful commemoration of Athol's passing last year. Coincidentally, when we first did the show last year, with the first week when we were about to open, that's when he passed away. The day before we opened, you know, that's when he passed away. And I think for us, but also the experience of doing this show in this time, on the scale that we're doing it, it really feels like really the strength of story being passed on from one generation to another, you know, and just how, but also just the beauty of his writing, to see that even in 2026, you know, we can add our flair and interpretation into it to try and make it modern, but it still carries a lot of the emotional weight of issues of the past that have not necessarily been resolved yet.
Absolutely. The emotional weight, the themes, the baggage, that is somewhat a universal human experience that we're trying to navigate 30 odd years into our own democracy. Penny, what's the experience been like for you, especially with that baton being handed over? No pressure.
It's been fascinating, I think, especially because, I mean, I obviously knew that apartheid happened. You can't live in South Africa and not know that, but I never studied it in school, so I obviously knew certain things about it, but I didn't know that much about it. So doing the play has been a great experience for me. I mean, I've spoken to my mom about what her experiences were like, what were they taught to think and feel about black people, how did it actually go about that all of this happened? Because I think in some ways it wasn't very obvious. It wasn't like there was just this huge genocide happening. A lot of it was very subtle propaganda. So it was just interesting to hear those experiences from my mom and from other people and really just dive into the play.
How did that then inform your character that you play as well? Tell us a little bit more about that, the own healing journey that you would have undergone through that process.
So yeah, I did speak to my mom a lot about it, like I say, because she stood up a lot in apartheid. Like in school, her teachers would make racist remarks and she didn't keep quiet about it. So I think in a way, I mean, the character that I play, Isabel, she's very naive when the play starts, and she's just been conditioned to think a certain way about black people. And then she goes into the township and she has this experience and she realizes that everything that she's been taught is wrong. And her little world is actually so much bigger than what she thought. So it opens her eyes up to this whole new experience and learning what black people are actually like and not what she's been conditioned to think.
Yeah, it's rewriting those narratives and knowing that the world is so much bigger beyond your own frame of reference as well. How did that play out for your own character, Mandla, your own evolution as well? Particularly because we're still grappling with a lot of these issues.
Yeah, I think for me, with the character that I play Mr. M, the passionate teacher, as you refer to him. You know, and for me, that is the springboard of the character. You know, the passion that he has for teaching, for a better tomorrow, but also, I mean, in the monologue that I say, where I say that, you know, as a black man in that time, and maybe even still today, you know, to carry hope in you sometimes is such a hopeless endeavor, because you're fighting a system that is almost illogical, you know, and
wasn't designed to make you thrive in the first place.
In the first place. And here he is trying to feed knowledge, because what he does is that he forges this alliance between the three of us to try, with the ultimate hope of boosting this young black boy into further education. But everything around them, the system, you know, in its formal structure as the Bantu education. But then on top of that, this force in the township that's building where, you know, there is a need to fight back physically beyond just words. And he's trying to say, no, let's not destroy buildings. Let's not take it into the streets. Let's keep it in the classroom. Let's make it an intellectual fight and not such a destructive energy that causes us to make more damage than anything.
Especially because it was happening towards the end of apartheid as well.
Yes,
and
yes,
you know how volatile the situation was. Touch and go at that point, right?
Touch and go.
I wonder if we look at what Aubrey Sekhabi would have brought to all of this. I mean, we know his heart, we know his passion for the arts as well. So what was it working under his directorship and in telling the story for this next generation?
He's a fantastic director.
Absolutely.
And he's also, I mean, he's met John Kani, so he's got that experience. Yep. He obviously experienced apartheid as well, so he brought a lot of interesting perspectives to what's happening in the story.
I think for me, my appreciation of him is that it's a three-hander, and we're doing it in the opera theatre, which is a huge theatre. So there's something about Bra Aubrey that has a desire for the epic things. And I think to be able to stage this in an opera theatre, he's able to really stretch it from the set that we have. And I think the way he choreographs the movements and stuff, as much as it's a word-driven play, but it feels like an engine that's moving the way that he's designed it with the lighting and the sound effects and everything.
Yeah, and just the overall role of the arts as well in healing our nation. You know what it's done in the fight against, you know, injustices and how it continues. Are you seeing a great appreciation from the audience, even from a resource perspective when it comes to the support? What are the constant challenges on that front as well, realistically, day to day for practitioners?
I think, you know what, we still need, and specifically with theatre, we need to intentionally get the people back in. I think it doesn't help us to create shows and live in this hope that people will just come. We need to tell them what shows we're doing, what they're about, but we need to entice them, you know. And I think those are the challenges that we have, where, you know, we are competing with mediums that are more immediate and flashier than we are. And whereas theatre is more driven by the depth of the stories and, you know, the quiet moments and stuff like that. But because we perform mainly to students, it is also, honestly, beautiful to witness some of them seeing theatre for the first time. And maybe they start off rowdy, but towards the end, they're really captured by this live presentation that's happening before their eyes.
And anything that slows you down is a gift. And in this world that's so overstimulating, that's what we need as well. So if we're looking at what you want the audience to walk away with, to connect with, perhaps to tap into, what's that message that you'd like to impart as the production continues?
I think for me personally, I just want audiences to think, to get a full perspective of what happened in apartheid. So the perspective of the black people, but also the perspective of the white people, because in a way, a lot of white people were also victims of apartheid. Obviously not to the extent of black people, don't get me wrong, but it was forced on white people as well. It's not like white people woke up and decided, oh yeah, I want to be racist today. You know, they were taught to think that way. So in a way, a lot of white people were victims of that as well, because it was a small group of white people that enforced it on the whole country. So just getting the perspective of the white people and the black people, and I think I just want people to really think about it and not just be closed-minded to certain things, but just to open up and understand all the perspectives.
And this is where tools and education plays its role, reframing narratives as we heal together, right? Because that's what's needed at the end of the day. For you, Mandla, as we just obviously wrap up, looking at that message you'd like to impart, particularly because you're touching the youth.
Yeah. I think for me, these are three passionate individuals who have very strong personalities. And I think for me, I really appreciate young kids who come to watch these characters that stand for something.
Yeah.
And even when they differ, they allow room for each other to say their piece without letting it be the worst offense in the world, you know. And I think if they can take that away, that you need to stand for something, you need to speak up for things that you believe in. And even if you speak up with somebody who doesn't believe in your opinion, give room to listen to theirs, and then find a common ground between the two of you. So, you know, things can move on swiftly without any scars or damage.
Learning, unlearning, relearning.
Amen.
That cycle. Amen. On Sunday's church.
Amen.
Thank you to the both of you for joining us. We're going to leave the convo there. You heard it. The South African State Theatre in Pretoria officially announcing Athol Fugard's iconic play, My Children, My Africa, and their return this month. Mandla and Penny, thank you for joining us and weighing in. They're part of that ensemble cast.